All right, we are here live with episode 17 of the Refinery. Welcome, everybody. It's October 7th, 4 weeks out of the midterm elections, and I'm optimistic, pessimistic, happy, and depressed all at the same time. It just sort of depends on the time of day. But the great news is I've got a bunch of my friends here to help me not slash my wrists over all of this. Um, we have our usuals, JD and Felicia from the Free Radical Network. We have Delbert Warner, who is a friend of mine from the Conservative Union. We have Corey and Andy Paith and Chandra, how do you pronounce your last name?
Surface, like the surface of a table.
Oh, Chandra Surface. Okay, they are both actually all three, because Corey and Andy are just under that one little box. They're all from the Party of Choice. And Chandra is new to all of us. We're just meeting her now. So let's all get going. What do we want to talk about today?
Well, first I want to point out that we're surrounded now. We're outnumbered by the Party of Choice on this broadcast.
Yay!
Yeah, that's true.
You know, at some point, I know it's not on any of the topics, but I'd like Chandra just to take a few minutes and explain how her first presentation went and what she recovered from.
Ooh, let's do that.
That's an awesome one. Why don't we start off with that? That sounds.
I vote for starting off with that. Make the new girl start the show.
Chandra should carry the entire show.
I think that's spectacular. Let me tell you what. Put me out there, Andy. Thank you. You're awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to start even before that. I'll tell you how I met Corey and Andy, and that was at the Royal Gorge Tea Party meeting in Canyon City, Colorado. They came and gave a presentation, and I got to tell you, when I saw the name of their organization up on the overhead, I was flabbergasted. I thought, why do we have these people coming to talk to us? You know, I mean, I immediately saw that word choice and went to the wrong place. And they proceeded to floor me with their information. I was just astounded by the message that they gave. I loved every moment of it. And, you know, immediately after their presentation, I walked up to Andy and Corey and I said, I want to help you. I want to be a part of this organization. I think what you're doing is fabulous. And it was not long after that Corey contacted me, and we went from there. I had a ball traveling to the Western Conservative Summit there in Denver and meeting so many fascinating people, getting to meet people like Alan West, Sean, of course his name's not going, Sean Welcome, the fellow who got up on stage and gave that amazing presentation before Ben Carson came up to speak. It was, ever since I've met Andy and Corey, I have had some of the best times of my life. And it's because I feel like I'm part of something that's going to make a difference. Shortly after, are you guys all still there?
Yeah, we're all here. We're here. We're enjoying this because
I'm just rattling on here.
No. This is great because that's how a lot of us feel. I mean, it's been so great to find this team that we've assembled here for the Refinery. It's been so great meeting everybody from the Conservative Union and the Party of Choice, and hopefully it's not been a pain to meet us from the Free Radical Network. But you know, we've been together here and trying to make a difference and trying to get get the party on the right track, try and get the messaging right, trying to get more people involved and not fall into the same traps that we have fell in for the past, I don't know, 50 years as a conservative movement. So yeah, it's been absolutely great, and I'm so glad that you found Corey and Andy with the Party of Choice and have been able to work for them. Your first presentation for the Party of Choice, that sounds like a daunting task to do.
It was interesting, to say the least. So I had set up my first presentation with the Pachyderms. That's a conservative organization in Pueblo, Colorado. And they called and asked me if I wouldn't be able to come and join them. And, originally I wasn't supposed to come until the end of September. However, they had a presenter cancel on them, and they called me, with about 1 week's notice and asked me if I would be willing to come and take that person's place. And I said, well, sure. But I hadn't even studied the notes yet from Andy's PowerPoint presentation. So, I called Corey immediately and asked her if she wouldn't be able to pass those along to me. And the gal there at the Pachyderms told me that they would have a projector screen for me, and that all I needed to do was come with my computer and my PowerPoint, and that everything would be good to go. Well, a day before my presentation, they changed venues. The place that they normally hold their meetings closed, and so they had to find a new place. And in all of the shuffling about to their new place, they completely forgot to bring a projector screen for me. So I had nothing to show my overhead on. I mean my PowerPoint presentation. And but I didn't know that. I didn't know that until, I arrived. But I didn't arrive until about 15 minutes after I was supposed to, because there was this horrible car accident on the road. I mean, a person actually died in that vehicle accident, and so that was pretty sad. But I was four-wheel driving over medians in the highway and, backtracking through country roads and trying to find my way to a place that I'd never been. And I came in there kind of harried. And that's when I found out that I didn't have anything to show the PowerPoint on. And they said, are you still good? And I said, sure. Let's go. And, I got up there. I did have the PowerPoint on my laptop. And I used that simply as, a direction to go for my conversation. But I'd say the first couple of minutes, I was kind of rambling like I'm doing now with you because I was nervous. But after the rambling, I got on point and I stayed focused, and it went fabulously well. And I had so many people come up to me afterward and say, this is amazing, this message that you're sharing. And it's making me think in a totally different way. I can't tell you how wonderful that felt to have people come and tell me the same thing that I felt after watching Andy present the first time. It was such a good feeling.
That's awesome, and it sounds like pretty much the prototypical volunteer experience for conservatism. That's basically how it happens. Whenever you get asked to do something and you're a volunteer, every single thing that could go wrong goes wrong.
It did. I tell you, it was nuts.
Yeah, you volunteered, you shall be punished for that. But it also sounds like the nightmare corporate presentation scenario. You've worked on all your PowerPoint slides, and they're a thing of beauty, and they're really going to knock the customer's socks off, and you have no way of presenting them, and so you just have to wing it. And that's when you realize it's really nice to be able to fall back on actual substance.
Absolutely.
And have an actual good message rather than just pretty slides.
And that was the reason why I wanted to join with Corey and Andy, is because what they are presenting is real substance. It's selling freedom in a good way.
And it's the kind of thing that makes people think, and it isn't just the same old rah-rah sis boom bah that you're used to. It triggers a new thought process, and that makes the speech and the things you're saying stay with people long after the meeting.
Of course.
And it's so hopeful. I mean, when you look at where we were, a couple of years ago, and just at the end of the 2012 election, and how dispirited so many people were, and then you begin to see how the kind of language, the kind of talking, the kind of messaging that the Party of Choice is putting out there gives you the ability and the power to be able to sell conservatism in a more efficient way, to see those reactions when you hit people with a concept they've never thought of and made them really think through something. It is so hopeful. I love that because we do suffer, and we will get into that later today, but we do suffer from quite a bit of hopelessness in some conservative things when we talk about things that are wrong, things that we see, news that's out there. So I cling to that. I do cling to the fact that they are really a hopeful group to encounter, and the things that they teach are uplifting rather than dour and fatalistic.
If I could just jump in, I got to tell you guys how impressive what Chandra did was. If I can use the poorest English grammar there in the world, but first of all, you know, our message is based on hope, right? Well, it doesn't start that way. The first about third of the presentation or more is all designed to take them to hopelessness and take people crashing down so they see just how absolutely hopeless everything we're doing strategically as a movement right now, how all of our failures we're experiencing are totally predictable, and I walk people through piece by piece. Here's how we brought it about. Okay, and it's absolutely hopeless, and we are going to collapse. And here's why. It's not because the other side's doing their part well. It's because we are destroying ourselves. And I go through. So it's totally hopeless, and then the last about half, 2/3 is all hopeful, and it brings them back up and shows them how they can do it. Well, she did this without the PowerPoint. Guys, the entire presentation is absolutely dependent on the PowerPoint. I'm not sure I could do that. And I've given it multiple times. I'm giving the exact same presentation. That's why I won't be here next Tuesday, by the way, because I'll be giving that. I'll be giving the presentation for the Arapahoe County Tea Party, which is the biggest tea party, I believe, in the Rocky Mountain region. It's really big. It's great too. Great guys who are over there, and
that's awesome.
Oh, it's exciting, you know, and you know, and I'll be on the radio talking about it. Hopefully, I guess Thursday morning, and it is totally dependent on people being able to look up at the screen, see the points, stay with me as I work through, and show them, because you're in 45 minutes, you're taking them on a journey that really takes a few class periods to absorb, and so you need those points. Chandra goes in there, none of that, has none of it. And just with her, and we saw this in Chandra right away, we saw her potential, we saw her personality, we saw her just her gift and her way of connecting. She connects much better than I do. I'm a robot. She's a, you know, she's a person too. She's you know, the Republican.
Thank you for that. I do like to be considered a person.
It's the new ad that we're going to make fun of, but she's that way in a good way. But guys, sorry to go on. I'll just end it with this. Unreal. She brought the house down without the PowerPoint, first time out, on something that takes you down and then up at the end. I have not seen that done. I just haven't.
Andy, thank you for that. That was super nice. I appreciate it. I asked a lot of rhetorical questions. That's how I did that beginning part. You know, there were a whole lot of rhetorical questions, and I had a lot of participation from the people in the crowd. So that's how we kind of got through that.
Nice. Hopefully, this episode will be a little bit like that, because I know that was a nice little bit of uplifting spoonful of sugar to take you down for the rest of this show. Because we have some real great stuff to talk about tonight.
Before you start, let me just say, and Andy sort of touched on something that reminded me of selling the value. It was like a week-long how to be a salesperson training class that I took in Florida, and they taught us how to develop a presentation for a customer. And the first step is to show the pain. You have to, before you're going to sell something to a customer, you need to demonstrate to them that their current situation is painful, and you have to illustrate it, and you have to hurt them and make them feel that the way things are right now is a really bad situation. And then step 2 is to tell them what your solution is and how it's a bright, shiny future, and what you're bringing is the solution to this problem that you just hurt them with. And then step 3 is to make them understand that they need to partner with you because you've got the credibility and the expertise and the experience to bring them that solution. So actually what I was hearing Andy say is that their presentation actually is selling the value of conservatism, which is a really cool thing, and it's a very effective sales process. And there's no reason for us to not use effective marketing and sales techniques and processes.
That's precisely what it is.
We don't do that very well, as evidenced by the commercial. It's like really feeling the pain.
Really quick here, if I may, one last thing on that. Thank you. First of all, that's really nice. When we take them down at the beginning, we take them down so low. We show them the sheer utter hopelessness of everything that the right does normally, and we take them so low that we actually tell them, now just so you know, we are taking you down as low as you can go. And I joke with them, no sharp objects, nothing near your wrists, okay, and so forth. And here's the funny thing, I've had tons of people come up to me and say, you know, the first part is the most hopeful part. I'm like, what? And they say, yeah, because I've never understood why this was all happening to us. And just knowing why it's happening brought me such hope before you even showed how to fix it. And which I guess I had never thought of before, but I've had a bunch of people come up to me and say that. They said, we're so confused. We can't understand why everything we're doing is failing so badly. So that's always surprised me. Once again, for Chandra to do that without the presentation is unreal.
Yeah, you know, you've really depressed me, Andy. You've really, really depressed me, because without that little bit of a qualifier, I was thinking, oh, hey, that's what the Jets are doing. The New York Football Jets are rope-a-doping into a really great season. But no, it's because we don't know why they're doing horribly. I'm sorry. I really do need to pivot into this mess.
So you're saying that going without a PowerPoint is like going without a quarterback.
Wow. This is
only
Sandra
actually scored.
Another country heard from. Very nice. Thank you. Golf clap. Very, very well done. Well played. Jeez. So we talked about last week this ad that got a lot of hits on YouTube and got airtime on the 5, on Fox News, on everywhere, called "Republicans Are People Too." And we played the ad, and we did a contrast between that ad and the Party of Choice's excellent "I'm a Conservative" ad. And that's really, I thought was a good discussion that we had, figuring out the differences and what exactly was done well by the Party of Choice and what was not done very well by these other guys, headed apparently by Vinnie Minchillo, who is a former Romney aide or advisor or whatever. This week we find out that ad, "Republicans Are People Too," didn't have Republicans in it.
Oh.
The ad, if you recall, was a bunch of slides with some text showing up over them. All of the slides were stock photos.
I hadn't heard this until just right before we went on air. JD said this, and I'm still dumbfounded by the whole thing. I mean, that's such an amateur error?
This guy is an executive at an ad company. I mean,
He should be fired
he's a
immediately.
marketing person. He's a marketing person. I'm sure he has used stock photos countless number of times. There's a time and a place for a stock photo.
Right. This
It's
exhibits a
not.
complete misunderstanding of your market and who you're advertising to and the context in which it will be seen. Stock photos not okay for this. Not even close.
When the premise of your ad is that Republicans are people too, and you don't use any actual Republicans when you're trying to illustrate diversity,
Yeah.
are I have no comprehension. I don't understand how.
This would be the classic wolf in sheep's clothing, or I don't even know what the real term is, like an ad made by a staunch Democrat sold to liberals, stalking horse or Trojan horse or whatever the term is for that, where the guy's pretending to be doing something that's good for Republicans and it's absolutely disastrous for them, but Republicans are too stupid to know it. I mean, that's just horrid.
I mean, thank goodness this wasn't an RNC sponsored ad. This is something, and I actually tweeted at this guy, Vinny Manchillo. He responded to me. I asked him how on earth. I have Republican friends across all the groups you used in your video. Why on earth did you go with stock photos? Because that's the thing. I mean, I have friends in the conservative movement across the entire spectrum here. I've got transgendered Republican friends. I have gay Republican friends. Both male and female. I have every minority. It's a diverse movement. It literally is a diverse movement. It's not hard to find people of every stripe and size and ethnicity and gender and whatever. You can find Republicans. How on earth this guy decided that, oh hey, let's go with stock photos? It's beyond me. It would take me half an hour to assemble the pictures that I would need to make an exact copy of this guy's ad and get it out there. It is just and have it be with real actual pictures of conservatives instead of stock photos. It's mind blowing. When Fishy told me about this, I mean, I was livid. I know Corey, when I told her about this, was pretty livid too.
And I guess the thing that irritated me the most is that the first time we do something like that, the first time the evidence shows up, it's all over left blogs and all of that, pushing that out into all the places they message, and a whole bunch of people in the conservative side, they don't know that. They don't know that, and so they are out there operating under, hey, this is a great, nice little ad. Maybe it doesn't do exactly what I want it to do, but it's going in the right direction, giving you a great message, and people on the left are mocking it to the middle. The middle is seeing that and just getting one more idea in their head. Republicans are also frauds.
We have to hire our diversity is what we have to do. That's the message of this ad.
Well, and also since society sees us as the bad guys, they love to hear anything negative about us because it just reinforces their preconceived ideas that Republicans are stupid, that they're frauds, that we can't do anything right.
What has
We are
been the
doing a pretty good
response
job
from the Romney campaign about this? I mean, this wasn't, and there is no Romney campaign, sorry. But has there been any real official response about it at all?
Right,
I mean, I haven't seen anything.
sorry. I was supposed to. I sort of went on a tirade there with why it's ridiculous that the ad was used, that the ad used these stock photos. He actually did respond to my question about the stock photos. Here's what his response was: to answer your question, we didn't have money for a shoot. Total grassroots effort.
Oh my God.
So you couldn't have put a message out on Facebook that you needed some pictures from Republicans of their family and their hobbies so that you could use real pictures?
We had people of.
Please.
Let's see. We had black, Hispanic, Tea Party, Christian, libertarian, atheist. We had a whole span of ours. None of them were paid.
Yeah, contact the Conservative Union at on Google Plus, and we will get those people for you immediately. Half of them could be our moderators. We
And
have a mix.
I'll tell you, Liz Harrison did this today. She made a video in response to that one and solicited pictures from people, got some, conservatives that are sort of leaders in the movement and mixed in with people that are just ordinary people and put together a better video than that one by far with real people in it. How about that? How easy was that for her? Took her less than a day.
Right, and she's not a professional advertising person, video editor. Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous that this was allowed to happen.
I hate to say that I want somebody's business to hurt because of a mistake, but I want that guy's business to hurt because of this mistake. No politician should hire his company again because that is so damaging.
We should put that name on blast. We really should. In conservative circles, what have we been saying since 2008 about, especially since 2008, about the messaging that's going out in general from the conservative side, that it's this consultant class that has been screwing things up for us in a lot of ways, right? People who are not in the grassroots, who are not in touch. They may look at a poll result and decide what to put together, but they are not embedded in the movement. But they're making a ton of money to go out and put out things like this. And that's a serious problem, that those guys get hired again and again after doing things like this. Their names need to be on blast, and they need to be humiliated, and they need to never work in that industry again.
If I were a liberal, I'd ask for a law against it.
Yeah,
there ought to be a law. We need to call your legislator, call your congressman, make it illegal to have ads with stock photos.
Exactly. That would solve the entire problem right there. No, the problem, as Fishy pointed out, is that we have people who are, higher up in this movement, and they come up with BS like this instead of, and I mean, again, the thing that's really frustrating here, to me at least, is that in addition to this moron using stock photos and having this blow up in our face and be a trending topic on Reddit, is that we have really high quality stuff from, say, the party of choice, some really high quality ads. We've talked about it over and over. I'm a Conservative is so much better than this ad in every way, and there's an order of magnitude difference in the support that they've received. They haven't. The party of choice has not gotten the same kind of push from whoever. I don't know. I don't know what the viral, how this ad got to 100,000 views on YouTube, or how it got to the 5. But I suspect that it was through connections and not through actual word of mouth. So because the ad is really it's nothing to write home about. So it's frustrating that we have actually talented people with great content and a great message that actually works and isn't generated off of stock footage, stock images, that gets ignored, and we have this kind of BS that rises to the top through whatever channels.
What do the 5 have to say about it, real quick?
I don't know. They were generally basically the same thing that we had to say about it last week. Was that it's okay. It's a little bit whiny, but whatever. It's nice in a sort of we're all people too sort of way. It's basically what we said, which was meh. The ad was okay. It was nothing special.
Can I ask something of the group here? would you guys think that ad sort of depicts the emptiness of conservative marketing today? And what I mean is this: if you look at the GOP convention, for instance, the presidential convention and so forth, when we roll out our best speakers, and we go out of our way to have so many people of color and women and all this kind of stuff. Now, I think that's great, and I happen to love a lot of those speakers. But we did. Here's what I mean. There's such an emphasis on demonstrating diversity and very little emphasis on converting people to our ideas. None of it. We depict our ideas, we list them off in bullet points over and over and over, and every speaker does the same thing. But nobody is convincing anybody. Nobody is.
Is that the function of a conservative or Republican convention, though? I can see your point on a lot of other communications, but not for a conservative convention.
No, I understand it's a rah-rah time, but also it is the time when we are going to get the biggest play and the biggest audience and people watching us. We have to remember, as conservatives, we're generally not watched. And so I would think that it just shows this ad was like the convention. We had all kinds of faces and things, and no proof that anybody should agree with us on anything.
I agree with Andy that it should, in a way, be a time for conservatives to get their message out. And that's what put Obama on the stage, was his speech at a Democratic convention. People who don't usually pay attention to politics pay more attention to a convention, I think, than they normally would. I think that it is a stage to convert some people. Yeah, you're speaking to your friends and your supporters and trying to get them excited and drum up support, but I think you're also trying to speak to people who are more apolitical, who it's election time, I need to pay attention for a few weeks to decide who to vote for, that kind of thing.
Yes and no. Yes and no. If you are on the left and you are building a convention, you are going to be reaching as many people with as much diversity of, little, what is the word I'm looking for, little single issues that move people, much the way that some other communication we're going to talk about tries to do. But at the same time, when you are running, say, on the left, when you are a Democrat candidate for president, you can show some particularly, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? You can show some important types of diversity that resonate with people, that have those themes of equality, really basic themes that the left runs on. Environment, positives, good. It goes back to that ACE article that we brought up a couple of weeks ago that Leslie talked about saying things are good things and the left's good things, and how people respond to the uses that the left uses for things like equality and diversity and environmental awareness and whatever. That's easier to sell from the left than it is from the right. And you will not find an open process on the right. You will not find a candidate willing to be embracing of people and of constituencies from that stage, because the right, the base, the people in the room would kill them.
Let him, Paul. Let him, Paul. Let him, Paul.
Fisher, remember at the convention. Oh, well, which convention am I thinking? Where we saw Ben Carson. That was at the Western Summit. I'm sorry. We saw all kinds of speakers, okay? And I got to be honest, until this point, I always loved Ben Carson. I thought he'd be terrific. I had never taken him seriously. I thought he was, it was basically a fad, a phenomenon, a bunch of people who are just trying to rally him up, right? And then I saw him speak, and here was the big difference. All the other speakers were rah-rah. All the other speakers were rah-rah, let's go get them, and we can do this, and this and that and the other. Ben Carson was the opposite. All he did was calmly walk through issue after issue after issue, and not only say what our position is, but why. and why people should like it. It was, you would think it was the most boring professorial thing in the world. It blew people's minds. They were coming out of their seats. They were coming out of their skin. They were blown away. I was blown away. Spectacular. It was the best speech I've seen in years. And it wasn't rah-rah. It was showing people how to win others to us. So I think, well, I totally agree. The convention is a rah-rah place. I get it. But since it's the only place we can reach out, man, maybe we got to find a way to use it to actually convince some people.
And from a practical standpoint, at conventions like that is where the recording gear is and where the press is. And so you're making a speech that's going to be recorded and going to be available to be clipped and repeated and broadcast later. So it makes sense for us to have both rah-rah and sales type of packaging at our conventions, just because it's where you're most likely to get recorded with high quality cameras.
Yeah, it's also very, very late in the campaign season. It's very, there's a lot of, it's on the last few weeks before the election. So I mean, yes, it's a good place to try and sell conservatism and try and proselytize, but it's also really, really late, and it's a place where we really need to push the candidates pretty hard too. So it's going to be trying to figure out how to do both of those things at the same time is going to be a challenge and something that I hope that we can do. But outside of those conventions, I think that, I mean, what we're doing, what we're trying to do with these videos and with the clips that we put out every day, I think that's, I mean, what else is there like that? So we're trying to get the messaging right and have it distributed out there. So any shares and likes and all of that stuff, tweets, are appreciated, and hopefully we can change the way that some of us think about these topics. Speaking of ways that we can change these topics, that actually works twofold, because shifting from this ridiculous situation with the stock photos to something that's almost as embarrassing, though thankfully it's less of a front cover of the news kind of embarrassment. It's more of a just, oh great, this again. The RNC has a shiny new website out, GOP.com, Principles for American Renewal. I'll put it in the chat, wherein they basically go over the same stuff that we've been talking about. The same conservative talking points that we've used, that we've had for a billion years, and there's really no update there. There's no targeting. There's no here's how you explain this to say a single woman. Here's how to talk about this topic with your teenage son. Here's how you talk about this to your coworkers. There's no direction there. It's just, here are these issues again. In case you were unaware, we need to start growing America's economy instead of Washington's economy, so the hardworking Americans see better wages and more opportunity. That's a real new one there, guys. Going through just talking points that we've already rehashed, so many times it's not even funny, instead of trying to go and explain how to talk about our principles. We know what our principles are. We know how we hear them, how we convey them to each other, but it's not getting the message of conversion out there. It's not actually arming anyone to go out and explain these topics. It's just talking points, and it's the same old from the RNC. It's very disappointing to me.
Well, I saw those too and glanced at them, and it wasn't anything that was enough to make me read them closely, even. You know, it was 11 bullet points. The first few words are bold, and then there was a short sentence after it. So, you know, from a formatting perspective, they did the right thing. But the message itself, the bullet points weren't exciting. It wasn't anything to rally around. It wasn't an overarching theme that I could get behind. There were no good slogans to start, you know, sending out as headlines to a blog post that describes it in more detail and really says, this is what we mean, this is what we're targeting, this is what we're doing. There was none of that. And I do understand that conservative principles are timeless. So yes, our foundation of conservatism doesn't change, and it should be the same every election cycle after every election cycle. But what we really are desperately in need of is marketing assistance. We need slogans. We're selling the same 11 products we always sell, but we've got a different customer base that we have to sell them to. Give me new ad copy. Give me a new slogan. Give me a new jingle. And I will sing that jingle badly everywhere, and or maybe let other people sing it, because truly bad singer here. They're not giving me the tools that I need, and they're not making the most of the tools that they have, because they have really bright people, and there are conservatives in the advertising industry, and there are creative conservatives. They're just not doing what needs to be done to get us, to help us recruit others.
It's quite possible that it's, you know, that there are constraints being put on them that I mean, we've all had the situation come up where you have a really great idea, but your boss says, no, not so much. We want to rein it in a little bit and do something else. You know, we want to keep it, you know, toned down. We don't want to go for that new exciting frontier. We want to keep it the way that we like it. It's just a shame that we haven't had anyone break through that. You know, I thought that Reince was going to maybe shake things up a little bit. He's much younger than the previous head, younger than Michael Steele was. So, you know, I thought that maybe we could get some traction there, but not so much. You know, what I want to do, instead of being really so dour and annoyed with this, is maybe I think it might be an interesting thing to do, is to take one of these quotes and see how we can address it. See if we can do something with it to make it a little bit less Republican and make it more available to the general population. So I'm going to read one, and let's see how we can turn this into
Ryan's theory that he posted. Ryan's theory that he posted in our backstage chat. I think it's valid.
Well, let's have Ryan read it then. Or maybe he's not here. There he is.
I'm here.
You're on to us.
I was just saying conservatives aren't as creative because they're not doing as many drugs as a lot of the Democrats do. And Andy and Corey are kind of an exception to that because they're in Colorado, where marijuana has now been made legal, and they are getting a second-hand high off of all of the celebration and smoke there.
Yes, I'm sure.
All I can tell you is I smell way too much marijuana on light rail every afternoon when all the college boys get on.
Awesome. So now we know the secret to the party of choice. It's not actually the founding fathers and what they had to say and repackaging stuff so that it's so it makes sense to regular people, to normal people. It's just that they get a lot of secondhand pot smoke going on up there in Colorado. Good to know. Good to know.
Reefer madness, baby. Reefer madness.
So that's what we need to do. We just need to send everyone in the RNC to Colorado and figure out some new strategies. Yeah. Hopefully they'll forget their way back to DC, and we'll just have to clean house. You know, that's the the top goal of that project. But getting back to these flashcards of GOP-dom, I want let's hit the economy one, because I think that's a big issue to people, since people are out of work, since people are on jobs that they really would rather not be doing. They're since they've lost their jobs in what their actual field is, they're on to second jobs. So on the economy, we need to start growing America's economy instead of Washington's economy, so that hardworking Americans see better wages and more opportunity. How do we fix that? How do we make that something that's a little bit more appealing to somebody who's out of work? How do you message that?
One thing I like about it, one thing I think is in the right direction about it, here I am, I'm going to be positive, is the contrast between Washington and Main Street. If they had put it in words that were better contrasting there, I think it would have been a better hit. Because you can see how the Washington class lives. You can see how the political class lives. You can look at the success and the growth around that area of Virginia and whatever, and tell how much better it's doing than the rest of the country. It's the district, it's the capital compared to all the districts. It's the whole dichotomy around the Hunger Games business. Using that contrast is good. The language in which I think they did it was lukewarm.
Prosperity for all? I don't know.
Sure.
What was that?
Prosperity for all, not just Washington, but a prosperity for all kind of thing. And of course, the Hunger Games tie-in is really good.
I would like to see a suggestion. I mean, we want to improve the economy by doing this. We're going to lower taxes by doing this. I don't know, like, give examples. That's what I like about Mike Lee's speeches when he goes out, is he says, we need to fix the economy. Let's increase the earned income or the child tax credit, and let's do it out of payroll taxes as well. So so that you still get the benefit, it helps to see how it's going to help you.
I think what you do there, though, is you're getting into step 2. This is really the principles they want to anchor around, and then there should be plans that reflect those. I agree with you completely. It's much better to have the detail around those things, but that's the next level down, when people are after they've assimilated that concept of the economy. Here's how, here's what we believe about how to fix the economy. Then you get into detail. It's also perilous to offer plans without getting, to a presidential election, and letting a candidate do your speaking for you, because they're going to be butchered and massacred. Every plan every conservative has ever put out, especially when it's been put out way ahead of something, has been butchered by the left, by critics who read things into it, who misrepresent it. It's dangerous to put those ideas out. I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm just telling you how it goes.
What about this?
Grandma going over the cliff in the wheelchair is what happens.
What about
when you offer those plans?
Freedom creates, control kills. The more of your money we control in Washington, the fewer jobs you'll create.
I think that's definitely a step in the right direction. Getting that contrast out there, talking about Washington, D.C. hoarding the money, I think is a really good point, to try and play the income inequality game, except throw it at the fact that the government is taking all of this money and using it and spending it in ways that they see fit instead of the ways that we see fit. Fishy?
Here's why that's also perilous, because the very people that are charged with doing the messaging, here in this case the RNC, have very good relationships with a lot of the Republican office holders in Washington, and if you're viewed as a party that is attacking its own members from that standpoint, you are going to get dinged for that on your own side. You have to build your brand, but at the same time you have to create the boogeyman that is Washington, and that's a hard line to walk.
Well, how would freedom creates and control kills, kills, freedom creates jobs, control kills jobs, and then saying, the more of the more of your money we control in Washington, the fewer jobs you create. Wouldn't that work with the leaders of industry?
But freedom is one of those words that people don't really understand or can't really hang on to anymore.
True.
Shared prosperity for all. I mean, that lets the bad guy be Washington, but we're setting up the dichotomy of prosperity for all versus Washington. But you're not actually calling Washington the evil bad guy. It's implied and it's unmentioned, so you can tell all of your rich GOP friends, no, we didn't mean you. We just meant to share prosperity for all and let some of the prosperity that's been happening in Washington, it needs to reach out. And you could even have illustrations of prosperity growing out across the whole country, including flyover country. Because people like sharing is good. Prosperity for all, that's a good phrase. Shared is good.
I'm sorry, but I love the feel of it, but when you say shared prosperity for all, the left uses that immediately for redistribution of wealth.
Party of choice. Yeah, you want to tell me about taking words back?
I love shared prosperity. I love the concept. I'm just talking about how the left has. They have currently framed the debate to where the term shared prosperity would get us killed.
Yeah, it's like communism, Marxism stuff. Right. And our own people would say, what are you, a communist?
I don't know about that. Actually,
say, yeah, they are share. The only way to share prosperity is to make them share it, because they don't want to share it. The rich won't.
Well, see, I don't know about that, and here's why. Because I don't know if you're familiar with Uber and Lyft, darn it, I can't think of the name of the.
Those are the two, Uber and Lyft.
No, there's another one. I'm trying to think of the bed and breakfast one.
Airbnb.
Airbnb.
Permissionless disruption, or whatever they're calling themselves. I love it. Yeah.
Exactly. It's no. What they call it is the sharing economy, because what these groups are, what Uber and Lyft and Airbnb, what they do is they are a way to maximize efficiency. So if you have a car, you become a driver. I mean, you can use your car to drive people around through Uber. It's a way to connect people who need rides to people who have rides, and it's called the sharing economy. So in a way,
but it's very free market capitalist, and people are getting rich. So yeah.
Oh, extremely. I mean, there are drivers in New York City for Uber who are making $90,000 a year driving. So we are taking back the word sharing in some capacity, and in a way that is in fact capitalism friendly. So maybe sharing is not too far off just yet, but we aren't. We might not be there just yet in terms of a broader topic. In those specific topics, though, sharing is actually working in our favor.
And I really got to jump in here and talk about that too. When you bring up Airbnb, when you bring up Uber and Lyft, do you see many champions in Washington on our side for those things? That's another reason why perhaps that word is not ready for that mass distribution of messaging, is because our guys, in fact, are not pushing for policies that will make those things true. And it makes problematic some of the statements on this Renewing America thing as well, because they talk about these things, but then they go out and they approve and support policies that squelch them.
Look, I know I always come back to this, but the bottom line is this. The great weakness of the left is they want all of their results that they would get, be it moving money around or whatever, all is through one word: control. We have to target that. You have to. And if we don't target them, if we don't call them out for how everything they do, everything they achieve is through controlling others, then we leave ourselves without our greatest weapon. And I think we need to highlight that in our messaging. We have to go after, they want to control you, and worse yet, they want to get you to want to control others. And this is bad. And we want to unleash you, and we want moreover, we want you to want others unleashed. We don't want you to want others money moved around and so forth. I think that we have to go after that.
Something that's been going through my thinking lately is bring things down to a grocery store level, because, and I don't know if, I don't watch TV, I don't know if there's any news ads or anything related to that, and that kind of used to be something they used in the past. But I don't shop for groceries often. My wife usually does that, but when I go to the grocery store, she starts pointing out how rapidly costs are rising, and then I think about these costs are rising because of regulations and the cost of transportation and so on and so forth. And the other thought I have is that how are people saying the economy is getting better under the current administration when these costs keep going up and up and up? And that's somewhere that everybody is affected, and I think a lot of people have to be noticing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard for people. Excuse me. I think it's hard for people to not notice that stuff. I mean, it's something that directly affects people, but how do we put that in a way? Maybe the real problem with this whole effort is that it isn't pugilistic. Putting these things into a sort of snippet, a soundbite that is cogent and works for the entire Republican organization as a whole, for the Republican movement. You know, they are making some mistakes that they've already made, that they've made many times already, but it's also something that we need to be careful of, because there's so many traps that the Dems have laid. So getting into, I don't know if there is something that they could hit us on when it comes to food costs, but maybe something about food stamps and how we keep on harping on that stuff. But it's just
Farm bills.
Farm bills, exactly, because we've been pretty active against farm bills in the GOP recently, and obviously there's reasons behind that. So there are a lot of things that we need to look at. I do like illustrating the control side of these things. Who is? Oh, Ryan. What's up, Ryan?
Well, I like the idea of bringing it to the grocery store like that, and like you say, they can hit us on some things with food costs, but we can also hit them back on a lot of things. You could point out the cost of fuel to transport that stuff. The cost of plastic is coming from gas, and all of Obama's disaster in the Middle East is jacking up gas prices. His stopping us from drilling for domestic oil is jacking up the prices. The stalling on Keystone Pipeline is jacking up the prices. And we can take that opportunity to point out all of his policies that are contributing to these high prices of plastics and gas and things like that. So they'll get us for some, we'll get them for some, but it might help to wake some people up to bring up all those points.
I really wish somebody would. I wish the GOP would have an ad out that really, really stresses that the most meaningless number in America is the unemployment rate, and the most meaningful number in America is the labor participation rate, which just hit 62.7, the worst in 36 years. That's the percentage of people actually working or actively looking for work, the lowest in 36 years. And
Yes.
and that is devastating. Where are the ads? And I mean, look, that one is not one for a web ad, okay? That one should be a nationwide, everywhere, on TV ad.
I'm taking two things away from this. And I said one of them in the internal chat, that maybe my problem with this Republican document is that, and I said, JD's read this, it was pugilistic enough. It's going away from being the party of no, of being the negative statements that we make, and that's better. But it's not taking on the left in a hardcore way. It is not bringing the fight to the left. And when we talk about control versus choice, that is an automatic, diametrically opposed set of concepts that draw that contrast. This document, this Renewing America plan, these statements don't do that. And so they're not being taking the fight to the left. The second thing I'm thinking of is the consultant class, the people that are in power, the people that are in office. They are not going to do this. They're not seeing it, as far as I can tell, the need to change the messaging in a dramatic way that will take that fight to the left, that will begin to rock them back on their heels. And therefore, I think it's really incumbent upon us to do it, to build examples. And that's why I'm so glad that you guys have been putting out ads like that. I hope that you continue to do that. I hope that people donate and spend some money toward Party of Choice and support them so they can do that, because someone has to lead the way. Prue in our chat had a great idea about how you should be able to illustrate very quickly with a grocery cart disappearing items based on what a certain amount will buy anymore. That's great. That's a great visual. Why are those guys not thinking about that? That's not on their plate. That's not on their issue. That's not in their head. We are going to have to do this. I'm afraid we're going to have to lead.
Well, and this loops us back around.
Why do you have to say mean-spirited things like that, Fishy? Why do you have to say, "Oh, we're going to have to lead"? We're going to have to lead. That sucks. I hate leading. Leading is like the worst. It means you have to do things.
And by we, she means you, JD. She means you. It's all on you, dude.
I'm gone. Goodbye.
You're up.
Goodbye. I'm out of here.
But I think this does loop us back around to the conversation or the mentions of Uber and Lyft and the permissionless disruption that they did. Earlier, Fishy was talking about how some of these GOP messages have to be non-threatening to the consultant class and non-threatening to the established political class, because these messages from those guys are made by the consultant class and made by the political class, so they aren't going to eat their own. But we also have the responsibility as voting individuals to pressure our elected officials to do what we want them to do. We don't answer to them, they answer to us. The people, and Uber and Lyft are a great example, because they just stepped in and they started doing it. They didn't have permission. They didn't ask for permission. They, in fact, have broken the law in a lot of places. And it became so popular and so necessary, and the population of those towns and counties demanded the services, and the population's demand for the services has forced city councils to accept Uber and Lyft services in opposition to the taxi drivers unions and all of that stuff. They just did it, and then they asked for permission later. And I think if we can just put out there the messaging of what we want the Republican Party to be, they would have to answer to us. I mean, what's Friedman saying of, make it politically profitable for the wrong people to do the right thing? Well, the people in Washington are the wrong people. And right now, they can continue to do the wrong thing because we will continue to support them. And we haven't provided them with an alternative.
I just don't have there's one thing where I just don't have an answer. Money. And I hate to say that, because
exactly.
I can tell you flat out, we've played our War on Women ad at several meetings, both establishment types. I played to an establishment type group up in Greeley, and they were just wonderful people, and Tea Party types, and more libertarian, more Christian right. I've played that ad to everybody. And every single one, they all say, oh, please, we need this on the air, we need this on the air. And now, look, I'm not coming down on them. They're tapped out. I understand. They've been giving to, candidates and stuff. And I wouldn't expect them to be able to, give us money. I get it. Okay. What's really frustrating, though, is seeing that the people who have the major money, the people who have a lot of money on the right, continue propping up these people who put out ridiculously ineffective messaging. The big thing in the war on women, they're putting out all this messaging trying to tell women, you shouldn't care about abortion. Here are the things you should care about. What should matter to you is the economy. What should matter to you is this. What should matter to you is that. In other words, an entire wave of ads supported by at least millions and millions of dollars, talking down to half the human race, telling them what should matter to them. Okay, we put out one ad. It cost us a couple $1,000s to make. And I know ours can't be the only good one. I just, I don't get out there that much, but it just blows my mind. If we had the money to have that ad everywhere on the air, we could kill the war on women largely, and then I would have the money to put out ads dealing with their other big issue, rape and abortion and that. I could kill that. I could blow that away. But all the money goes to people who are doing a breathtakingly bad job, and I'm sorry for the whininess, but I don't have an answer.
That's not really whininess when it's the truth. I mean, and to go back to what you said before about who else is doing good stuff. I mean, maybe GenOp. Other than that, nothing comes to mind as having even a coherent marketing strategy. I mean, I don't see anything from anybody that is anything close to what the party of choice, what you guys have been doing. So, aside from a very small amount of people, and I really hate to dump on conservative content and stuff, but there are a lot of well-funded conservative things, particularly on YouTube, from some of the larger conservative groups. I won't name any names, but I'm pretty sure that you can figure out a few of them that are just awful. They are. I don't know why they continue. I don't know why they proceed, but there are ads that I don't know who their focus is. I mean, the stuff the subject matter that they get into is so directed at us. Why on earth are you talking to us about stuff that we already know? And it's not helping us explain these concepts outside of our little arena. It is mind-boggling that these guys get as much funding as they do to make just terrible short videos that don't do anything.
So, JD, are you saying that you think we are being led by a bunch of people who want to gin up their choir? They're preaching to the choir. They're not trying to convert anybody in the right direction. Is that what you're saying, in essence?
I'm saying that there's a whole lot of that going around. Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. I mean, and it's provable. It's not something that that isn't there. I mean, you can look at it and see, oh, hey, with my own eyes, this is what's going on. This is the I'm getting paid X amount of dollars to talk about this topic that I teach in my my classes at this one obscure college that I teach at. Great, thanks for giving me more money to be on film and teach these same classes. It's helpful, real helpful.
In essence, I think what we are all guilty of to a point is, tuning into things like, well, I think you saw earlier that I had written that I had the Sean Hannity show on earlier this evening. And I guess you could all probably hear some of that because I had the volume up too loudly. But so what I do is I tune into these things that preach to me the things that I already know, and it makes me feel good about the things that I believe in. But I'm not tuning into those other things that the people who we need to try to bring over to our side so that I can better understand their messages, so that we can better combat that. Perhaps we need to. I'm stumbling here. Help me out, JD.
Don't worry. First off, I mean, I just want to reiterate that this is a conversation that we're having here. This is
It's not a
show
presentation.
secondary conversation first. This is not a. This is very laid back.
This is a workshop we
yeah,
happen to broadcast. Yes.
exactly.
So, okay. I don't know how many people are listening, and so that's been one of the reasons for my reticence. I'm not sure how many people are going to hear me make a fool of myself if I talk too much.
It really doesn't matter. We have Andy make a fool of himself every week.
I doubt that.
And if he doesn't do it himself, we will help him.
Exactly.
Because we're bullies, is what we are. We're bullies.
Well, and we have a lot of fun doing this, and you can't have a lot of fun if you're, stodgy and worried about getting it right. We're bouncing ideas off of each other, and we're trying things out that maybe people aren't talking about. There's not a right answer. There's not a, everybody sounds goofy at sometimes. Everybody sounds brilliant at sometimes. We're not worried about that. We're worried about, are we having the conversation that is moving us forward? And please do more of that.
Fishy, thank you for that, because I've been feeling fairly foolish.
Wait a minute. Ho, 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 ho.
What did you call me?
God.
Hold on.
Oh, no.
No, serious. I'm being serious here.
Okay.
Let's not worry. Foolish? No. Here's foolish. Okay, we have incredibly expensive, effective ads from Udall. It's Udall versus our guy Corey Gardner here in Colorado. And here's the gist of all the ads. Corey Gardner is going to force rape victims to carry the child of their rapist.
Yes.
A position that Corey Gardner doesn't even hold. Okay? Now, he voted once for the personhood amendment, and you can use that, I guess, in that way. He has backed off and said, well, whoa, I don't support that aspect or whatever. Whatever. So here's the key. They come out with this. That's an incredibly huge point. As I always say, you could, if you went to the mall and asked 100 people, do you believe the government should force rape victims to carry the child of their rapist? You would not get 10 who would say yes. It's an absolutely death knell issue to hold that position. Until we move the needle otherwise. But I'm just saying right now. Here's the response from the Republicans here in Colorado. Udall is just a one-issue candidate. No, I'm not kidding. So, Chandra, if you're feeling foolish, no. Nobody here, nobody.
I wish I had a camera right now so that you could see my face. I do.
You walked into a room with no PowerPoint and lit up the room. No, foolish is responding to and is losing single women by 35% and responding to an ad that says that you would force rape victims to carry the child with you're just a one-issue candidate. That's foolish.
I agree. Which is why I pressed Corey Gardner so hard that the 2 times that I've gone to see him and have had the chance to speak to him directly, and I've not gotten a really good response.
What'd he say? What'd you press him on? What?
I've pressed him on those very issues that you just spoke about. I asked him how he was going to combat the false advertising that we're seeing constantly on television. I mean, it's every time I turn on the television, you know, he is too extreme for Colorado. And I said, I don't see you saying that this is false. I don't see you combating this message that's being put out about you. And like Corey has said, a lie that isn't torn apart becomes a truth eventually. Everybody in the state of Colorado is believing that nonsense if they don't have a clue as to what's going on. And that's like the rest of the nation. We have a huge uninformed populace in our state who, they don't look up any of the issues. They don't look up the candidates. They don't look up what they stand for. They're uninformed. So they get these 10-second sound bites on television that tell them that this fellow's too extreme for Colorado, with an unfortunate image of some woman walking to her medicine cabinet and unable to get the birth control of her choice, looking sad and forlorn, and they buy it, hook, line, and sinker.
And here's the sad part, guys. On about 90% of the issues, Cory Gardner's position is the favored position of the majority of Colorado voters. And all he and by letting this one ride like that,
he avoided me
by 10 points. He should be winning by 10 points.
Yeah, he would change the subject. He would say, basically, I think the gist of his message to me was, I'm going to stay above the fray. I'm going to take the message to this other plane where, yes, Fishy, I like the fists. I'm going to take this message to a higher plane. I'm not going to go down into the dregs with this person. So, as opposed to fighting. For us, fighting for the message, yeah.
God, is it any wonder Ted Cruz is so popular? People believe he will fight. People believe he will not sit down and take something. That is attractive in a candidate. It doesn't matter what Ted Cruz is saying, in as much as the fact that he's willing to fight. People dig that, especially in the conservative movement. Especially when you take something that someone says and you call them out. That is a bald-faced lie that they are talking about me, and I'm going to tell you why. How hard is that?
That's what they should have done. That's what they should have done. They should have shot an ad with Cory Gardner riding a skateboard with extreme music playing, and at the very end he says, "I'm not too extreme for Colorado, and I don't support." And these ads that Udall is running against me are absolute lies. That would have solved that problem.
Anybody want to bet money that Cory Gardner is getting advised by a professional consultant to not be dirty and to not play tough? And same guy who told McCain not to take on Obama and told Romney not to take on Obama?
Guys, let me tell you how bad this is. Okay, I was when I spoke up in Greeley, Cory Gardner's office, I think I might have mentioned this, is upstairs in the building where I spoke. His secretary is one of the people who was involved in having me speak there. This group was so taken with, because at one point, afterward, because I only did a half hour, because they said they only wanted a half hour because they had to do it quickly, so I did. It wound up being an hour because they kept asking questions. And one was what they thought Cory should be doing on this, and I said, you do the Newt Gingrich approach. The first thing you do is take away the strength of the other side's position, then bring yours. You always take away their thunder. You don't leave their thunder out there and then try to insult the public by saying they shouldn't care about the thunder. Okay? You should go directly at it, take it away, and then Cory would be mauling Udall on the remainder of the points. I said, and they said, well, could you write a 30-second ad that undoes this? I said, easily. I'd be happy to do it with them. And they said, and so they said that they were going to go to him, and they meant it. They went to his campaign and demanded that his campaign sit down with me. I've never gotten a call. And so they're getting, once again, we get back to they got the high priced and whatever. And by the way, I'm sure some of these high priced people are very gifted. Okay, I get that. But
you're sure about that? You're sure about that?
Yes, I am sure.
I'm not so sure about that.
I think the word you're looking for is special.
No, I'm sure that they are very good wordsmiths, but being a strategist and a wordsmith are two different things. Okay? And trust me, coming from the left, I understand. As a leftist, the one thing we'd never want to hear is the right take away the strength of our position and then bring theirs. That's not what we want to hear. We want to hear them dodge. We want to hear them avoid the strength of our position, because then we just go after them like rabid dogs. And now every single ad they put out is about this. And I'm just going to say right now, I think Corey's going to lose. And he should win this by double digits this year.
There's a lot of polling out there that says the middle doesn't like conflict. It doesn't like a lot of
That's so
negativity.
wrong. Oh my God, that's wrong.
It's kind of a dichotomy. I think that is right in one way, but it's not in another. And Prue brings up an excellent point in chat when she says that people love people who stand up to bullies. If you could do that casting, if you can make that stick, that's a positive for you. If you are seen defending someone else who's being bullied, or if you are standing up for yourself against unfair charges, that's a positive. That's not negative. That's not, fighting in conflict and all this. And she says also, you don't have to go down to the Democrat level to stand up for yourself. Those are two incredibly good points I thought belonged in this discussion, because these guys might have felt that they should not fight. Yes, stupid conflict for no reason and just snark and picking on people for stupid stuff, that's probably not as helpful. But if you've got a substantive issue, very simply explained, that someone is lying about you and you can come back and combat it and prove not only are they lying, but they're doing a miserable smear job on you, who doesn't love that? Who isn't going to respond to that?
And it's the
absolutely
tactic.
correct.
It's the tactic that Newt and Ted Cruz both have, which is questioning the premise and stating the case the right way. You know, they say, okay, I understand there's a little nugget of what you were trying to get at, but you said it so wrong that you were completely wrong and insulting the public by pretending that that's true, and I'm going to defend the public against your slander by defending myself. I mean, it's an absolute verbal art. And Ted Cruz was a prosecutor or defender. I mean, he was a practicing lawyer, so he made his living by saying things off the top of his head and putting it in such a way that it's the truth, it's said passionately, and it convinces other people. And Newt does the exact same thing. And we need more guys who are like that. When Newt was the most popular, it was because he would fight, and he would tell the questioner in the debate, I question the premise, I reject the premise of that question, here's what I'm going to say.
Tony Katz style, we like to call it in the internet radio universe.
There you have it.
Yeah, it's him and John Sununu. I mean, there's a reason why they were pretty much viral every other day during the 2012 election cycle is because of that. We talked a lot about the failings of the right in this episode. So let's try and end the show with some fail, I think, from the left. I again, this is something that I'm glad that we aren't playing it for you guys, because there'd be too much twitching and probably projectile vomiting, just horrible responses to this ad, because it's just but Rock the Vote, which maybe I'm wrong, but growing up I always thought of Rock the Vote as at least trying to give the appearance, if not actually being impartial, but trying to give the appearance of being impartial, trying to do the sort of weasel, no labels kind of deal where, oh, we're not really liberal, but we are actually liberal. They have a new ad out where they take Little John's "Turn Down for What" song, and they have Little John re-record it as "Turn Out for What," and they have a litany of stars, I guess, show up and talk about why they're turning out to vote, what issues they're most, focused on in this election, why they're turning out, and all of the issues are liberal talking points and are liberal social issues, and it's the one closest to being even remotely bipartisan is Little John saying that he wants to legalize pot. That's the reason that he's turning out. That's the closest thing that I heard in the entire
Well, no, one of them was talking about prison reform, and that's
prison reform. You're right. I forgot about the prison reform.
Yeah,
so prison reform and weed legalization, and other than that, it was just.
We use stock footage. They use stock slogans and stock issues, stock social issues.
Yeah.
It was breathtakingly demeaning. And here's the bad thing, guys, and my old gang, leftist academia, has truly dumbed down America so greatly that young people do not feel demeaned when someone basically says, I am going to entertain you into voting for your pet issue.
Well, that brings up my question. Is it demeaning if they do not indeed take it as such?
Yes, it's still demeaning. They just look. I guess what I'm saying is it's demeaning for the crowd, us, the audience watching, the sender and the receiver of the information. That's not us. One person's talking to another, and we're watching from the sideline. And for me to watch it, I'm watching one person dramatically demean the other. But you're right. The other one's actually lapping it up, and it's sickening to me. And it just tells me, oh dear Lord, I just want to wring my old side's neck and say, how dare you dumb down generations to the point. I mean, there wasn't one single word in this about job creation, prosperity, securing America, about anything that actually would make. We said earlier, 62.7%, the lowest in 36 years, percentage of Americans are even involved in the workplace. And what we're talking about are a bunch of one issue things that I mean, dear Lord, this is.
I can get my free birth control and have my gay marriage and my legalized marijuana and my nice economy while I'm living under the bridge because I can't afford a place to live.
I mean, I even like some of their issues. Okay, you know that. I'm sympathetic to some of those, and I love equality. I love equality. I'm all for it. But not at the expense of prosperity, not forced equality. Every single one of those issues, the Democrats bring about through control.
It's shallow sloganeering that, they're trying to control the youth vote by using these shallow bumper sticker slogans and famous people and blinky, shiny, loud music, repetitive. They're all the things that you use when you're teaching babies. They're treating voters the same way I see my nephew treating his infant, because he's trying to teach the infant and entertain and manipulate and control the infant by using shiny, flashy, blinky noises and stuff like that. It's so
I wanna real quick, when I saw this on Facebook before, I went through and I read some of the comments and I copied and pasted a few of them so that Fishy could read them. And I want to read a little bit of what they said here. I will say that there was a lot of opposition to the ad. Not messaged very well, of course, but I mean that's typical. But here's some that were pushing back against the pushback. I notice a shocking trend in the comments section. Almost all the opposition I see to this video is posed by white people, more often than not male. And also the criticism is that it's too biased to the liberal agenda. Compare it to one of your fear-mongering, hateful, negative ads. No wonder people are voting blue. Man, where are those hateful, negative, fear-mongering ads when you need them, right?
One of the real problems, though, is we don't have a good answer to that. My answer is always this. I was born a white male. I had no control over how I was born. I do control who I serve, and I choose to serve everyone regardless of how they were born, and that includes you. And I will not demean you with messaging that treats you like a child and tries to entertain you into grabbing your one single issue selfishly at the expense of all America.
I'm worried about that. I don't know that I would do that, because sometimes when you tell people that what they think is not demeaning is demeaning, it winds up being more demeaning than the actual. They will feel demeaned by your interpretation versus how they should be feeling demeaned by this ad. You understand what I know it was very, very.
No. I understand what you're saying. That's fair enough. I'm just saying the main thing I would make, because I've had that come up. The main thing I do, though, is I tell them, look, I can't control how I was born. I can control who I treat well and who I serve. And that has nothing to do with how they were born. And that disarms that pretty quickly. Me personally, at that point, when I look at them, I think you're right. I could come up with better wording for the second half of that, and then say, I personally don't feel this messaging treats you with the respect that you deserve. I think you're better.
I've been itching to get in on this one, because I think what we're not seeing is that this is not about, oh, these are the only issues that are important. I don't think anybody put that as their first priority when they made this, or even their second priority. It's, of course, first getting the message, it's cool to vote, and you should do it. And everybody has a cause celeb, something close to their heart. Everyone has a reason that they should do this cool thing. And so they're establishing these ideas that, well, if you don't care about this, maybe this moves you or that moves you, and you need to be passionate about it enough to vote. One of those things we're going to hit on may pull you in. And so it's cool. And then here you have a cause, you're doing something good. It's building that we are socially doing good things together when we all vote. And it's not even really exploring, again, anything that's really pressing current or on the table now. But here, I think, is why. They want to establish a voting habit in people. And they want to make this simple for them. Pick an issue. Make sure you vote on it. We'll tell you how. We'll tell you who. And that's all you do. And then you have this great feeling of being part of the tribe that is socially responsible and working for a better America in that area because you vote for that thing. It is not about what's serious or not on the ballot or who is on the ballot. It's about establishing a lifelong pattern of doing this way, because those issues will come up again and again and again. It has very little to do with substance and everything to do with establishing the habit and the process by which they get into the habit.
Absolutely, and you just made me think of that episode of South Park where everybody starts driving Priuses and the smug that gets generated. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to create that kind of climate of this is what the socially acceptable. This is the correct thing. You are part of that tribe, as you said. And that's really effective. I mean, it's going to work for a certain segment of the population. I will say that for certain, this ad is going to alienate a lot of millennials. This is going to alienate a lot of millennials because, we might see the response on the ads Facebook page or whatever. We might see the people who are clearly leftists and are down that path, who are responding to it and saying, "Oh, this is excellent. We need 1 billion of these." But I mean, as Andy said before, the labor participation rate, that's a lot of millennials out there that are not in the workforce. I mean, there's a lot of millennials out there who are struggling, and when they get this kind of ad in their feed, when they see, okay, so what exactly here is it that I'm supposed to pay attention to? Okay, I'm fine with gay marriage, of course, equality, and sure, my friend smokes weed, so yeah, that's fine. But there's nothing really serious in this ad, and when they think of voting, they think of serious business. I think, at least, there's going to be significant number of millennials who are not going to respond well to this ad.
I don't think they'll do it publicly. That isn't where I wanted to go, but I don't think that will raise the furor that you're thinking it will raise. Individually, they might think, "Oh, this is horrible," but that message will not go out. The message of, "Hey, this is great," will go out. Right.
Yes.
That said, also, if you look at the actual issues that they're talking about, marijuana legalization, what has the president's policies been up until recently? Even if marijuana was legal in a state, they were having raids everywhere. This is not an administration that has done anything for Little John in that way. When you look at something like, oh God, what was one of the other ones that I just thought jumped out at me? Human rights. Who are we supporting in certain places that are very, very awful on human rights? A lot of Middle Eastern nations in which we're meddling and allies that we have, that's not working out for them too well either. When you're talking about prison reform, you just had Democrats in the Senate, if I'm not mistaken, put that completely down. Bills that had been out there. These guys are wrong on these issues too, but you're not going to find that being told anywhere. You're not going to see Republicans coming back and saying, "Oh, here." And what I'd love to see done with this ad is playing it, and then as it gets to one of those, I'm here because I'm talking about marriage equality, bing, and then a buzzer that says wrong, and then here's where they failed. And then here, I'm talking about marijuana legalization, bing, here's where they're wrong, and you freeze it every time there's something like that. I think that'd be an effective counter. Somebody should do that.
That would be an effective counter. That's good. Now, we do know that ad calls out to the tribalism, like you said, and it's sort of an understood that when you're talking about legalization or prison reform or human rights, those are Democrat issues, and so obviously if you're in favor of those, you're going to vote Democrat, and the results don't matter because I feel that those are Democrat issues, and it's my friends that are the cool people in Hollywood and all of the cool hipsters that vote Democrat, and these issues are important to them, so I'm going to vote Democrat, and they want me to vote all the time, and if I do, then I'm a member of that tribe, and I can feel good about myself, and I am full of smug. Yes, it's effective with a certain segment of the population, and it's effective with the only hope that I've got through this is that the segment of the population that will be moved by this ad won't bother voting in 4 weeks, and they will only vote in 2 years if there is a candidate that excites them. They voted for Obama because he was cool, he was one of them, and it would make them, they would get brownie points for voting for the brown man. They might get that way about a woman, Elizabeth or Hillary, but those are both old white ladies, so they might not even bother going to the polls for that.
Can I ask a question here? Because doesn't this look? I don't think it's going to have a great effect on the midterms because I believe turnout's going to be low amongst young people because while they don't know about They don't know the 62.7 number. They're living it.
Yeah.
And the young people are very frustrated with America right now. I can't get a job. I can't do, I go to try to get a job, they'll say, and some guy who's 35 is doing the job I normally was able to get because he has to settle for that. Here's my question. In 2016, doesn't this show, if we look at how, but because this stuff really does reach young people, it does reach them. I just don't think that they can be moved too much in the midterms. Doesn't this show how important it is to have somebody like Ben Carson, Rand Paul, somebody inspirational, libertarian, or just, somebody inspirational from our side who really, Ben Carson connects with people. Even people who hate him feel warm and fuzzy in his presence. They're almost swooning. Rand Paul is getting standing O's at Berkeley. I mean, don't we have to face the facts and not roll out a tandem of guys who can't reach these people? Don't we have to face that with our ticket this time?
We were kind of having that conversation in the private chat, that this, my fear, and I hope I'm wrong, is that this is all the people that we can move into the circle, that there are not a lot of people who can be moved in that are not already with us, and that this is the pool that we have to grow from. That terrifies me. I hope it's not true.
I don't know. I mean, I think that there's a lot of time to change the pool. There's a lot of time to switch things up and to have that pool grow up a little bit and change its composition. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be a bit of a difficult ride to get to that point. But we do have some good candidates out there. We do have some people who, as Andy mentioned, are capable speakers and are people who, I mean, going back to what you said about the issues brought up in the ad. I mean, I can think of one candidate in particular that I've been known to sort of be a fan of, that fits rather nicely into the niche carved out by the points made in the ad. I mean, Rand Paul is pretty good on a lot of those things, and I don't know if he can capitalize on it, but I really would like to see Lee Doran or Jen Opp or somebody come out and do what you said, Fishy. Go out there and take this line by line and say, the Democrats are not really great on these issues, and here's why. And we have the technology to do that. We have the people to do that. Just getting it done, I guess, is the question.
Just don't ask that consultant class.
No. The last thing that we want is stock photography in the parodies or in the response ads to this one. It's wouldn't be good. Let's see here. Can the party of choice do that ad/commercial, or do you guys have too much other stuff that is more important? It's also, another thing is that, as we talked about before, it's about the money too. I mean, the nice thing about GenOp is that they have money. That's helpful when it comes to making videos.
Well, and they have people who do that for their day job. I mean, it's what they do. It's their profession is to make Republican messaging. And none of us do that as our primary job. Actually, it would be great if the Koch brothers are interested in sending us money, I'll give them my address. I'll give them my email. Heck, I'll even give them my bank account information so they can direct deposit the funds. I ain't got no problem with that. I would love to have some of that Koch brothers money, but nah.
I just want to respond to something in the chat. No, Rob, I am not talking about Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham was not the candidate that I was talking about. I'm not.
John McCain, you're a McCainiac.
Oh, wow. No. But not that I have anything. I'm so glad that Lindsey Graham is going to waltz back into his comfy Senate seat this year. I'm absolutely glad that there's token resistance in South Carolina, and that he can continue on doing his business, and be annoying for the next 6 years. But
I'm
it's
happy
so
to
much
have
better
that
than a
one of the
Democrat.
Senate races we don't have to worry about. And the good news is
Yes.
midterm elections are where we can shine. It's where we have to push the enthusiasm, we have to push turnout and getting our people to the polls, but we're not, it's ours to lose. Now, we have a long track record of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, and I'm quite concerned about quite a few of the races that we need to really, get a move on and get some support and get some action supporting some of these candidates who need our help in Senate races and in the House. And we're going to lose governorships, which is really sad. But this midterm election is probably going to be pretty good for us and is going to give us some enthusiasm and is going to give us some light at the end of the tunnel, shot in the arm kind of thing that we need so desperately to make it through the next 2 years. And then we'll have the big fight over the next 2 years about who our candidate for POTUS is going to be, and that'll be all-consuming and enough to make me want to put pins in my eyes because I'm sick of it already.
It's not going to be all-consuming.
I do not want to talk about POTUS yet.
Texas took care of the all-consuming nature of the primaries. I'm pretty sure we'll be done in the first couple of months. It's fine. It's fine. Texas got this one. They did us a solid.
People have been talking about the next presidential election for too long already. I'm sick of it. I don't want any of them to win. I want them all to just go away.
That I will say just in briefly here is that I think it'll be very nice to have the whole thing wrapped up by March, and we'll have the rest of the year to start focusing our cannons on whoever the left puts up. But yeah, thank you, Steve Munisteri and the Texas delegation for handling that business.
So we won't have a repeat.
You're welcome.
It's really, people need to understand how big that is. 5th in the primary voting cycle with 1,100 and some odd candidate delegates available. 5th in the cycle. You're welcome.
So, Iowa, you've lost a little bit of your significance. Just a little bit. We got a lot of candidates that can spend time in Texas rather than spending time in Iowa.
Because front heavy, you're going to have whoever they're going to hit. If they don't hit the first 2 states, they could lose. The candidate could lose all 4 of the other states ahead of us and come out ahead after Texas.
And that would be some big momentum. But 4 weeks from now, we have to start campaigning for Mitch McConnell. You know how much that kind of bugs me that we have to do that? Not that
it doesn't bug me one iota.
But hey,
I am very happy to do it. Yeah. I have not had time to even watch that video. I just heard about it. Somebody tell me.
So basically, everybody and their uncle in the Allison Grimes campaign have come out and said, "Oh well, she's just lying about her support of coal. She's doing that because the people of Kentucky are too dumb to not support coal. So she has to be expedient and endorse coal so that she can win and beat Mitch McConnell. And she's just lying about it, that in actuality, when she gets elected, she will be anti-coal." That's basically what it was. And when you're talking about Kentucky, and you have staffers on the record saying that the people of Kentucky are too dumb to realize how bad coal is or whatever. It's
So it
it's
wasn't.
not a good day for the Grimes campaign, and Mitch can pretty much put his feet up for the rest of the election. So
So
hopefully,
what I heard was that a staffer for Ms. Grimes was caught saying, "Oh yeah,
several.
she's just saying that she's in favor of coal now because that's what she has to do to get elected, but she'll do what she really wants once she's get elected." But
Several staffers.
there was also stuff in there about how Kentuckians are idiots.
Yeah.
Oh my
Oh
God.
yeah. Yeah. No. It's any nervousness I had about Kentucky is pretty much gone. I'm content with that race being a solid stay for Republicans,
Okay,
and we
now,
can focus on Georgia or
and
someplace else.
this is where we Todd Aiken this chick. We have got to take this message and use it to help Pat Roberts in
Oh, that's
Kansas.
absolutely.
We have got to use it to help Georgia. We have got to use that crap because that's not just Ms. Grimes. That's her staff. That's Democrats. That's what they do. You can't trust a Democrat. We have to nationalize this mistake and be ruthless and be mean.
And you said it last week. Was it Bart Stupak?
Yeah,
This is the
exactly.
pattern.
Exactly. Excellent.
Could you reiterate that, because I might not have remembered what
Oh,
that
okay.
was.
Well, remember the emergency that we had to pass Obamacare, and there was last minute negotiations, and it was the whatever compromise, but Bart Stupak was one of the last votes in favor of Obamacare, and it was because he was convinced that abortions would not be taxpayer paid. That's the only reason that he voted for Obamacare, is because he was guaranteed that no taxpayer funds would be used to pay for abortions.
Yeah, but he didn't believe that. He never believed that. He knew full well that they were going to pay for it. I'm sorry, folks, ex-Democrat here. That's a total line. He absolutely knew, and he didn't care. And he intended to go back on that. And everything these staffers are saying about Grimes is absolutely true about virtually every Democrat candidate. And that's why you're so right that this
Painting
needs
with
to
that
be,
broad brush.
it needs to be broad brushed because it is true.
Well, exactly, and that's why they do the Todd Aiken thing, and it's not true, and we don't do the reverse when it actually is true. We've got to learn how to fight smart and fight hard, and that
Or
means we're going
just
to have to be
fight.
busy about
I
it.
will say
Yeah,
that
fight.
these two issues, I don't think that there are. I'm not entirely certain that you can Aiken Grimes the way that Aiken was Aiken. I mean, it's going to be very tough because you have an incident where, okay, so you can point out however many incidents of lying that have gone on. You can go back to Wiener and do all of that stuff, but the reason why the war on women stuck was because we had that point of view that's out there. Somehow they've been able to tie pro-life to meaning, to be exactly the babble that came out of Todd Aiken's mouth. That was the problem. The problem there was that we have too many old white men in the party, and that they're able to easily stereotype us. It's not going to be easy to stereotype the rest of the left as another Grimes. It's very difficult to do that.
Well, we do have the advantage that poll after poll after poll tells us that the American population doesn't trust anyone. They don't trust their institutions. They don't trust their government. They don't trust politicians. We use this as evidence that the American people are right. And when you don't trust the politicians and you don't trust the government, their competence of government, because they've screwed up the whole Ebola reaction and all of this kind of stuff, everything government touches, it does wrong. So the answer has to be, the only sane answer is don't trust any politician, not the Republicans either. But at least they are the only ones who are even willing to entertain the idea of making government less a factor in your life. And the only sane answer is to make this dysfunctional, untrustworthy government less a factor in your life. So the only logical answer is the Republican vote. It's a long way of getting there. And I'm tarring everybody with a broad brush, which is government incompetence. But the nation agrees that government is incompetent. There's no case to be made against that.
The other thing is that the reason why I don't think that we should try and do the Aiken approach to the situation from Kentucky is that we don't want to be accused of Grimes slinging. Because that would be bad. Also,
there's a
I'm sorry, I had to get that
the whole country there. Oh man, bad.
Yes, it was a collective groan. What was that, Andy?
I just liked it.
Oh, okay.
I'm clicking on your picture
Awesome.
over and over to like it, but it's not working.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I think that we should probably wrap this episode up. I'm glad that we were able to end it with a sort of positive note, going into Kentucky and have that great news from James O'Keefe. And he says that there's more. He says that there's more stuff coming. So
that's
Project
good.
Veritas swings elections.
And we need to definitely use that in our support of Pat Roberts and some of the other, and Cory Gardner and some of the others that are in trouble. Okay, great. Not Tammy Grimes, whatever her name is, Allison Lundergan Grimes. I can't talk. She lied to get the vote. Well, gosh, wouldn't Mark Udall? All you got to do is ask the question.
Hasn't Mark Udall?
This is what Tammy says to get the vote in Kentucky. Do you suppose Mark? Yeah, hasn't Mark also lied? I mean, just put out the question. Don't you think she looks tired? Sorry, that was a Doctor Who reference, but.
No, but I mean, there's a good website here in Colorado. It's just called Udall Lied, and that's udalllied.com, and that's all they do is reel off his lie after lie after lie, and these aren't stretches for the most part. You know how sometimes, just so you constantly have new material, you stretch a lot?
Yeah.
They're pretty solid. So, I mean, to stretch, because I agree, you can't stretch the Grimes thing as easily as you can, a woman's issue.
Well, it's not necessarily the coal issue, but it's the lying to get you to vote. I mean, Andy, liberals do that.
Yeah, and what I mean is, stretching that over here to Colorado would be pretty easy.
Yeah.
Well, so this is what they do. Oh, and by the way, Udall lied. Let's show you here.
Yeah.
It starts to tell people, I tell people all the time, look, Democrats lie. They lie to you constantly. They have to. They're trying to get you to want to control other people and feel good about it. Okay? They can't come at you directly with that, because then you'd feel like, Satan. All right? So they have to lie to you. They have to at all times. And, I have no problem telling people that. I'm very comfortable with it. Sorry. Go ahead and close her down, JD. I'm sorry, I kind of got going.
No problem. I'm so glad that you went there at the end there, because this is an important point, and it's definitely one that I didn't think of going into this, about trying to broaden the spectrum of the Allison Grimes situation in Kentucky. So we'll think about that. I'm sure we'll have some more conversations, and maybe we'll have some other stuff come out of that. I want to thank everybody for being here, all the viewers, everybody who likes the clips and and has come participate in the chat. Rob and Prue and everybody we had planned in and some other guys in the chat, and T's there too. In addition to that, I also want to thank the guys at Foreign Matters who pimped our show last Thursday night, 9 p.m. And that's their showtime every Thursday at 9 p.m. where they talk about all the stuff from all of the news from around the world and from a conservative perspective, and get some really good information out there. So I want to thank them for promoting our show. And thank everybody for being here, and congratulations, Chandra, on being the first time on the Refinery. Hopefully we'll have you around next week while Andy and Corey are out doing their thing. Maybe we can grab you for the party of choice side of the show.
I'll do it, definitely. I
Excellent.
won't be as shy next time around, I promise.
Good.
I wasn't quite, prepared for this evening. I hadn't seen all of the things that you guys had referenced, and so, there were many things that you spoke about that I didn't really want to chime in on because I didn't know what I'd be talking about. So it was a very good learning opportunity for me this evening, and I like the easygoing atmosphere here. It's good. It's a good feeling. So.
Well, thanks for
Yeah,
being on.
definitely.
And thanks for being on next week. Leslie, thanks for setting things up. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Be sure to like all of our clips. Go and view them. Share all of the playlists. Subscribe to the channel. Read all of our stuff. Make sure that you check the descriptions, by the way, in all of our videos, because there's content in there. There are links to things that are important in the description. And share our videos, please, because we need to get this messaging out there, and it's important. I mean, you're here for a reason. If you're watching this, you're here for a reason. So, thanks everybody for watching, and Leslie, take it away.
Well, thank you, JD, for all of the work that you and Fishy do. They do all of the post-production work and bust their butts on all of this, and I appreciate it like nobody's business. And we will see everybody next week. Well, okay, we'll see or hear everybody next week, Tuesday at 8:30. That'll be whatever day it is. I haven't changed my calendar to October, so I don't even know what day it is. But it's Tuesday, 8:30 Central, and other times in other places, and you guys know where you are. Thanks, y'all. See you next week. Bye.